Good afternoon, and welcome to the DCTV News at Noon program.
This program is brought to you by the Southwest TV Translator Association and supported by the Dolores County Broadcasting Network on DCTV.
The News at Noon program is the best assembly of news and local weather for the Four Corners region. Give us your feedback and news alerts at 677-4119.
With all that said, I'm Kendra Cook, and my co-hosts are Kelsey Kiesling and Jerry Tope. And now for May 9th, 2016, here's the news. According to the Durango Herald, a child predator sex sting has netted at least 3 more men suspected of trying to pay for sex with minors in Durango, bringing the total to at least 6 arrests during a 3-day period. Undercover law enforcement posted provocative advertisements on public websites April 25th through the 27th to lure people into the Four Corners area interested in paying for sexual encounters, according to arrest affidavits filed in 6th Judicial District Court. Once callers responded by text messages to the undercover messages, undercover agents offered to let the men have sex with 1 or 2 girls ages 11 and 14. Agents arranged a time and place to meet, and the men showed up believing they were going to have sex with a minor in exchange for money, according to the affidavits. The men went to different lengths in carrying out the alleged crimes, with some exchanging money and others getting cold feet and driving away. Those arrested included Rory Schmeier, 47 of La Plata County, Jason Yazzie Chi, 39 of Bloomfield, Harold Marshall, 45 of Farmington, Charles Earhart Watts, 38 of Durango, Christopher Gerard Rindfleisch, 21, residence unknown, and Urnov Timur, 30, residence unknown. Schmeier and Marshall were formally charged last Thursday in 6th Judicial District Court with solicitation for child prostitution. The felony charge carries a presumptive range of 4 to 12 years in prison, but because it is a sex crime, defendants found guilty face an indeterminate to life sentence, meaning they can be on probation or in prison for an indeterminate amount of time until probation officers or a parole board deems them safe to be released. Bail for Schmeier and Marshall was reduced to $100,000. Chi's case is being handled by the U.S. Attorney's Office. Watts is expected to be formally charged May 13th, and Rindfleisch and Timmer are expected to be charged May 16th, according to court dockets for the 6th Judicial District. The arrests were the result of a joint investigation by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, the Durango Police Department, and the La Plata County Sheriff's Office.
According to the Cortez Journal, a Mancos man was arrested this week in connection with a vehicular homicide case resulting from a fatal crash in Montezuma County on Montezuma County Road 31 on March 30th. James Ellis, 27, allegedly was driving north on Road 31 in a red 2013 Chevrolet pickup truck along with 2 passengers about 11:30 p.m. March 30th, according to Colorado State Patrol Sergeant James Saunders. Just north of Colorado Highway 184 on Road 31, Ellis allegedly lost control of the vehicle, which traveled off the left side of the road and rolled multiple times, Saunders said. After striking a mailbox, power box, parked motorcycle, propane tank, and a tree, the truck came to rest on its wheels. During the roll sequence, a 22-year-old female passenger was partially ejected from the truck and sustained fatal injuries. The other passenger, a 31-year-old male, had only minor injuries, he said. None of the passengers in the truck were wearing seat belts, and alcohol was a factor in the crash. Ellis allegedly fled the accident scene on foot after the crash. Montezuma County Sheriff Sergeant Brad Ray arrested Ellis on a warrant about 1 a.m. Wednesday, May 4th, according to Ray's Sheriff's Office press report. Ellis contacted Ray to turn himself in, the report states. The Colorado State Patrol warrants involved charges of vehicular homicide, driving under the influence, leaving the scene of an accident causing death, vehicular homicide, reckless driving, driving under the influence, and failure to display proof of insurance. Saunders said the death in the crash could have been prevented.
According to the Cortez Journal, Ashlyn Mike was a budding musician and talented artist, a girl whose death at the hands of a man who authorities say lured her into his van spread grief far beyond her home on the Navajo Nation. More than 3,000 people turned out Friday for her funeral in Farmington, New Mexico, weeping as images of the 11-year-old girl were displayed overhead and the sounds of her xylophone rang out in the auditorium. A headstone created for her grave read, "Our Little Angel in Heaven." The crowd far outnumbered the the community of Lower Fruitland, where Ashlyn was raised with her father and siblings. Entire families, hugging each other and their children, sat before her small white coffin. Many wore yellow T-shirts. Navajo Nation Council Speaker Lorenzo Bates said yellow represents hope, strength, and resilience, and it was one of her favorite colors. New Mexico Governor Susana Martinez called on the mourners to carry on the kindness Ashlyn showed the world. More than 200 miles away in Albuquerque, suspect Tom Begay Jr. waived his right to a preliminary and detention hearing, and a judge ordered him to remain in custody on charges of murder and kidnapping. Public defender James Loonman was assigned to represent him and did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Begay had been cited multiple times by Navajo police since 2006 on suspicion of public intoxication, speeding, theft, disorderly conduct, and not having a valid driver's license, according to tribal records. Off the reservation, he had a citation for drug possession about 3 weeks ago. An FBI agent's affidavit says Begay, a 27-year-old Navajo who lived down a stretch of highway from Ashlyn's home, persuaded her and her 9-year-old brother, who had been playing near their bus stop after school, to climb into his van. The boy told police that the man took them deep into the desert and then walked off with his sister to an even more remote spot before returning alone. Begay told investigators he assaulted the girl and struck her twice in the head with a crowbar, and that she was still moving when he left her, according to the affidavit. The slaying has raised tough questions for residents and law enforcement on the country's largest American Indian reservation, which stretches for 27,000 square miles into New Mexico, Utah, and Arizona. 8 hours passed between the family's initial missing persons report and an Amber Alert that went out at 2:27 a.m. Tuesday, urging people around the region to be on the lookout. Navajo families extend far beyond bloodlines through traditional clan systems that foster kinship among tribal members, and the law enforcement delays didn't prevent about 100 community members from searching for Ashlyn, driving across the open desert long into the night. During the ceremony, images from across the country of people releasing balloons, holding vigils, and singing in remembrance of Ashlyn flashed on the overhead screen. She will be missed.
According to the Durango Herald, the 3 victorious directors in the La Plata Electric Association election were announced Saturday at the Skyute Casino and Resort. Mike Alley won in the Archuleta County District. Dan Huntington will represent South and West La Plata County, and Jack Turner was re-elected in the North and East La Plata County District, said LPEA spokeswoman Indiana Reed. Doug Lyon was unopposed in the Durango District, District 3. He will succeed Michael Rendon, who did not seek re-election. A crowd of about 300 people attended LPEA's annual meeting to hear the announcement. In District 1, Archuleta County, Ali drew 54% of the vote to beat incumbent Mark Garcia and challenger Callum McNeil. Ali received 851 votes, Garcia drew 641, and McNeil collected 81. In District 1, there were 8,062 ballots mailed and 1,573 returned. Huntington won District 2, South and West La Plata County, with 64% of the vote. He drew 1,310 votes. Lori Schell received 730. There were 8,426 ballots mailed and 2,040 returned in the district. Tom Compton did not seek re-election in the district. In North and East La Plata County, District 4, Turner won by 841 votes, collecting 44% of the vote. John Beebe received 774 votes, and Ron Bishop garnered 262. There were 8,004 ballots mailed in District 4, 1,877 returned. Overall turnout was 22.5% this year in the 3 districts that held elections, as 5,499 ballots were returned from 24,492 mailed out, according to a news release. This is on par with the 22.6% returned in 2015, but down from the 25% return in 2014. Tallying was overseen by the La Plata County Clerk's Office.
From the Cortez Journal, the Dolores District of San Juan National Forest has released its long-awaited environmental impact statement on the Rico West Dolores Roads and Trails Travel Management Plan for public review and comment. The project area is located north of Dolores, Colorado, and includes the Bear Creek, Taylor Mesa, Calico National Recreation Trail, Bolum Pass, the Divide Road, and Groundhog Point areas. 5 alternatives address motor vehicle use on national forest roads and trails. A proposed action was released during the scoping period in December 2014. The plan proposed that some trails be closed to motorized uses, including at Bear Creek. New ATV trail routes were identified in the proposal. Closures drew criticism from motorized users and tour companies. Quiet users, including hunters and wildlife advocates, praised the closures and advocated that additional trails be closed to motorized uses. The alternatives addressed the issues identified during that scoping process. The draft statement does not identify a preferred alternative. A 45-day comment period began on Friday, May 6. Comments should be submitted by June 20th. Commenters are encouraged to be as specific as possible about the actions proposed and about specific areas on the landscape under review. The DEIS document, including maps and an electronic comment form, are available on the Forest Service website. Send your written comments to the Dolores Public Lands office listed online. Comments may also be hand-delivered to the office between 8 and 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. Comments may also be emailed to Debbie Kill at dkill@fs.fed.us. A public open house is scheduled for June 2nd from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Dolores Community Center. For more information, contact Debbie Kill, NEPA Coordinator, at 970-882-6822 or make an appointment to meet with staff in person.
According to the Cortez Journal, as soon as her electric cooperative started selling panels in a community solar garden, Doris Shenham of Bear Lake, Montana, signed up. It will take 21 years for her to break even on her $900 panel, but 91-year-old Shenham doesn't mind. My solar panel is now part of my legacy to my children and grandchildren, she says. Both Shenham and the Kalispell-based Flathead Electric Cooperative are enthusiastic about solar gardens, an arrangement in which customers share the cost as well as the electric output of a solar array. While the concept seems simple and appealing, solar gardens have been slow to sprout in the West due to a host of regulatory and economic challenges. That's changing as states like Oregon and California open new markets and electric generators from tiny rural co-ops to investor-owned giants build community arrays. The slow growth is surprising given that solar gardens were pioneered in the West. In 2006, the first community-supported array went into operation in Ellensburg, Washington. It was small, expensive, and developed by a not-for-profit municipal utility. Still, it showed that it could be done. The National Renewable Energy Laboratory in Golden, Colorado, estimates that nearly half of U.S. households cannot install solar on their roofs, often because they rent or have shaded roofs. Others are discouraged by the expense, since an array can cost as much as $30,000. Solar gardens represent as much as a $16 billion market by 2020, NREL says. Nevertheless, the complexity involved in developing them, including calculating energy credits and setting tax rates, has slowed their spread in the West. In 2010, Colorado passed the Community Garden Solar Act and created the largest solar garden program in the West. Other Western states have been slow to follow. In 2015, Montana State Senator Mike Phillips, a Democrat, supported legislation that would have enabled customers to get credits on their bills for solar gardens at for-profit utilities, the same way a homeowner gets net metering credits for electricity put on the grid by a rooftop unit. It was opposed by industry and died in committee. And now here's our weather report.
The low-pressure system over our region is moving slowly to the northeast and will give us intermittent clouds with light sprinkles and some clearing off and on today. Chances of rain will climb to their highest point in the late evening and decrease through the night to rise again tomorrow as another system arrives with more showers and storms likely. This system has gained quite a bit of energy above what was expected late last week and will hopefully give more moisture than was predicted. Then Wednesday we'll see the arrival of a dry, high-pressure system that will stay throughout the weekend. This system will give us above normal temperatures. All these systems of the last couple of months have kept some higher elevation snows and kept the mountains cool. But now that it's well into May and warmer temps are coming, later this week, faster melting will likely begin soon. So, early season runoff should make the creeks and rivers run vigorously, and rafting should be good this year. Southerly winds ahead of an upper system moving out of the central Rockies into the Great Plains are forecast to draw warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico, supporting widespread showers and thunderstorms across the lower and central Great Plains and into the lower and mid-Mississippi Valley today and tonight. Some of these storms may be strong to severe, particularly northeast Texas, southeast Oklahoma, Arkansas, and northwest Louisiana. Some of those areas, as you see in the red, will be subject to flash flooding and heavy rains in the yellow. Moisture spreading further to the north is likely to focus along a slow-moving frontal band, giving moderate to locally heavy rainfall accumulations across portions of lower Missouri and mid-Mississippi valleys. On Tuesday into early Wednesday, the system is forecast to weaken as it continues to track to the east. Although showers and thunderstorms will gather along the frontal boundary and extend from the mid-Mississippi Valley into the Ohio Valley and the mid-Atlantic states. A well-defined cold front leaving our area and combining with other moisture to the north is forecast to drop through the western U.S., spreading south and east from the northern Rockies and the High Plains. Moderate to heavy precipitation is likely to develop west of an area of low pressure gathering over the northern high plains. This makes heavy rain accumulations expected to center over eastern Montana, with heavy mountain snows over the ranges of southwestern Montana and northwest Wyoming. For our 5-day forecast, high temps beginning Tuesday will be middling 60s, climbing Thursday to the mid-70s, with upper 70s for Friday and Saturday. Our lowest temps should be lower 30s, and in Wednesday night, climbing up to the lower 40s for Friday and Saturday night. Clouds through Tuesday, and then mostly sunny until Saturday's slight increase in cloudiness. Winds are to be milder after today for the rest of the week, so overall the week will be a great one. Now back to the news.
According to the Durango Herald, motorized vehicles have been banned on trails for years, and recently Durango City Council added electric bikes to the list of prohibited vehicles for safety reasons. Some e-bikes have a set top speed around 20 miles per hour and require the rider to pedal to engage the motor, while others have a throttle and go much faster. I think it's better to err on the side of public safety, said Councillor Sweetie Marbury, before the council voted on the issue. The council is interested in revisiting the topic in the coming years when the Smart 160 trail connecting Three Springs to the Animas River Trail is complete, said Mayor Christina Rinderly. Some argue there are bikes that can be ridden reasonably, allow older people to continue riding, and let cyclists of different levels ride together. The City Council took up the issue after Mets and other Parks Department staff noticed people using electric bikes on the trails. They wanted to make it clear they are considered motorized vehicles and are banned. The Parks and Recreation and Natural Lands Advisory Boards backed the staff and recommended adding electric bikes to the city's ban. These regulations align with rules on federal lands, Met said. The city staff and boards did not think introducing speeds on the river trail was an enforceable alternative. The city makes an exception for people with disabilities who are allowed to use motorized vehicles on the trail. If someone is using a vehicle where his disability may not be obvious, he can display a handicap placard issued by the Colorado Division of Motor Vehicles to avoid being questioned by police or park rangers.
From the Durango Herald, Colorado state lawmakers hope they can settle a decades-long battle over grocery store beer sales with a truce. A large coalition of support has grown for a piece of legislation that would gradually allow full-strength beer, wine, and liquor sales in supermarkets, but the measure faces an uphill journey. The effort comes as a compromise to avoid competing ballot initiatives this fall. Efforts run the gamut, including just allowing beer and wine sales in supermarkets, which has gained the most momentum, to also including liquor. Once an issue that divided many factions, including craft brewers, distillers, liquor store owners, distributors, and grocery stores, support for the measure now appears to outweigh opposition. Some smaller liquor stores, such as the Korean Liquor Retailers Association and the Ethiopian Eritrean Liquor Association, have expressed support, as have several craft brewers, the Distilled Spirits Council, and the Wine and Spirits Wholesalers of Colorado. Disagreements do, however, exist within grocery store and craft beer associations, so those industry groups have been hesitant to offer a unified voice. And Your Choice Colorado, which is pushing the beer wine ballot initiative, said Friday that it is not ready to comment on whether it would pull its initiative to make way for the legislation. Meanwhile, Keep Colorado Local, a group of liquor store owners and craft brewers, say they are forging ahead with opposition to the ballot initiative, having invested $3 million in media buys to fight the proposal. The bill passed the first test Friday, moving through the Senate Business, Labor, and Technology Committee and the Senate Finance Committee before being approved on a voice vote by the Senate, with a final vote to come Monday before it moves to the House for consideration. Perhaps the most critical component of the compromise is that full-strength alcohol sales would be phased in over 20 years, with grocery stores being allowed to purchase only a handful of licenses until 2027. After that, grocery stores would be allowed to obtain unlimited licenses. Also important to the compromise is a buffer zone provision in which the bill draws a radius of 1,500 feet around existing liquor stores and requires grocery stores to buy out liquor stores to obtain a license within that zone.
Durango versus Steamboat Springs, which is the best town ever? Outside Magazine wants readers to decide in its 6th annual Best Town Ever contest, in which Durango and the ski town to the north, Steamboat Springs, are battling head-to-head in the 3rd round. Outside looked for great access to trails and public lands, thriving restaurants and neighborhoods, and, of course, a good beer scene, and asked its Instagram followers for nominees. Durango made the list with several other Colorado and southwestern towns, and it has survived 2 rounds in the bracket-style voting. 64 towns faced 5 rounds, competing with others with similar recreational offerings, and the winners will advance until 2 nominees remain. Whichever receives the most votes by May 27th will be the overall winner. Round 3 leaves Durango and Steamboat Springs nearly tied in the mountain town category. Other Colorado cities have made the list, including Aspen, knocked out by Taos, New Mexico, and Denver, competing in Round 3 against Seattle for culture. Salida, which offers world-class rafting and river sports on the Arkansas River, was beaten in Round 2 by Bend, Oregon.
From the Pueblo Chieftain, acreage used to grow hemp in Colorado could double this year as the state-regulated agricultural enterprise continues to grow. Dwayne Sinning, program manager for the Colorado Department of Agriculture, said, "We're getting 10 to 15 registrants per day, and there are already 60 applications in process." What the state does know, more than 4,700 acres of outdoor production and 800,000 square feet of indoor space are included in the 347 active registrations. That's a boost already from 3,600 acres and 571,000 square feet from last year. New applications could add thousands of acres devoted to hemp, a crop that became legal in Colorado for the first time in decades when voters passed Amendment 64 in 2012. There are large outdoor growing operations planned in Pueblo, Otero, and Baca counties. In 2014, the major areas where hemp was grown were in Larimer and Boulder counties, near the state's largest universities. Now it's moved into traditional farming areas in the South Platte, Arkansas, and Rio Grande valleys. Most so far has been grown from clones until seed stock becomes available. Sinning added that it has been hard to certify seed from other countries where most hemp is still grown. The state adopted rules that require hemp plants to have less than 0% 0.3% THC, the psychoactive chemical in cannabis, to differentiate it from the more potent cousin marijuana. More than 90% of the hemp grown last year passed the state test. That distinction has caused some friction for the hemp industry at both ends of the spectrum. The marijuana industry pushes back to drive out hemp, Sinning said. Since hemp is a state mandate, counties can't opt out like they can for marijuana. The problem with outdoor grows is that cross-pollination would ruin both crops by elevating the THC levels of hemp, making it illegal, and lowering the THC levels in the marijuana, making it less commercially viable. Generally, fields of hemp and marijuana should be more than 2 miles apart, keeping cross-pollination at bay. The other problem comes from those who do not understand that hemp is not marijuana. Sinning said it's so new that some people do not understand the difference. Growing hemp is no different than corn as a statewide concern. Those attitudes are changing. For instance, the Pueblo Economic Development Corporation has endorsed hemp growing as one of its focus points for attracting new industry. Much of the hemp grown so far is used for making CBD oil, which can be infused into products ranging from cosmetics to health aids. Fiber from industrial hemp could be more useful if there were processing plants. Some efforts have begun to build decortification plants, literally beating the plants to a pulp in order to process the fiber for shipment elsewhere. There is some scale up in the size of production being looked at, Sinning said. The fibers are tough, so it tears up equipment, but that's also why they're valued for making things like t-shirts that last a long time. We've heard some Dolores County citizens are moving forward on possibly growing hemp on some test acreage.
And now, the Dolores County Sheriff's Roundup for the week of May 2nd through May 8th. A deputy responded to a report of a port runner. A deputy successfully unlocked a vehicle in town. A deputy responded to a dispute between neighbors in town, and a deputy investigated a report of an altercation involving 2 juveniles. A local business reported an abandoned vehicle on their property. A deputy responded to a county residence to assist in unlocking a vehicle. Prior to arrival, the owner found their spare keys. That's it for today's roundup. Stay tuned this week for more updates.
And in today's High Country happenings, May 9th, Monday, the Cortez Public Library and the Sunflower Theater in Cortez will show the documentary The Messenger at 7 p.m. at the Sunflower Theater at Market and Main Streets. Doors open at 6:15 p.m. Admission is free with a suggested donation of $5. According to the website, Sue Reiner's wide-ranging and contemplative documentary, The Messenger, explores our deep-seated connection to birds and warns that the uncertain fate of songbirds might mirror our own. May 10th, Tuesday, there's a free eviction clinic for landlords and tenants, 3:30 p.m. at the Justice Building on 601 North Mildred Road in Cortez. No legal advice is available, but attendees learn about the eviction process and court forms. For details, call Donna at 970-565-7580. May 10th, the Cortez Historic Preservation Board presents a free program by Jill Seyfarth, Remember Woolworths, at 7 p.m. at the Cortez Cultural Center. Seyfarth discusses her latest research on historical Main Street structures. For details on that, call 970-565-3987. And for my end note, today's celestial event has a lot of followers online watching the transit of the planet Mercury zooming across the sun from the point of view of our planet. Media says it happens once a decade or 13 to 14 times per 100 years. Its orbit around the sun takes 88 days. Obviously, given our weather, the best way to watch it is to follow those online stargazers' images or NASA Online. Clearly do not look directly at the sun, but people are taking photos using telescopes and a solar filter. Mercury is said to be 7 degrees off of Earth's orbital plane, which got a lot of ancient stargazers' attention. Mercury is one of the 5 ancient planets and the smallest in our currently designated grouping. It was thought to be a god in ancient Roman times, youngest son of Jupiter and Maia. In Greek history, it is named Hermes, and in Babylonian times, Nebo. Mercury is also equated with Thoth in Egyptian lore and Odin for northern peoples. For the Sumerians, our oldest known civilization recorders, Enki is associated with Mercury or perhaps one of his sons. Whatever or whomever it represents, in my opinion, watching a small black dot, smaller than some of the sunspots, pass across the view of the sun isn't visually spectacular. But to think of how many thousands of times ancient peoples looked to the heavens and saw the same thing, well, that's worth pondering over. All of the event info presented here is also available on the DCTV News at Noon Facebook page. Please let us know your event by sending an email to dcbnnews@gmail.com or call the station at 677-4119.
Again, thanks for tuning in. This program is aired live at noon and rebroadcast at 2:30 and 8 p.m. on Channel 32.1 Dolores County, on Channel 30.4 in Montezuma County, and their cable Channel 5.
And you can also rewatch the broadcasts on YouTube. Search DCTV News at Noon, and please like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. And don't forget, Talk Tuesday tomorrow, May 10th, the live call-in show allowing your community voice to be heard. We will be discussing community preparedness, so be sure to tune in and hopefully call in too.
For Kendra Cook, Jerry Tope, and all those who are working to bring you DCTV and the News at Noon program from Dove Creek, USA, I'm Kelsey Kiesling. See you next time.